I feel so important when it does the countdown thing. I'm like, wow, this is legit. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to KickASSery. I'm hanging out here with a very, very great friend of mine, Vicki. Vicki and I go way back. Dirt wasn't quite new, but it was a new thing.
Now you're dating me.
Yeah. So, no. What is KickASSery? KickASSery is my opportunity to brag on the people in my life. KickASSery is the opportunity for me to reach out to those who are currently in my life, who have impacted my life at some point in my career, my personal life, whatever it is, and that's what it's all about. And I don't apologize for it. So, Vicki, real quick, give us your elevator pitch. Who are you? What are you doing right now? What's going on?
You know, I should have been ready for the elevator pitch because I talked to you guys about that. I don't know if I have one. Well, currently I'm in real estate. I'm a realtor in the Boise, Idaho area, and I'm really enjoying helping people buy and sell. I represent both sides, sellers and buyers, and getting the price that they need for their home, paying the right price for the home of their dreams. And I've actually brought a lot of my financial planning background into helping buyers and sellers, just with determining, is this the right house that you should be in and the right price range? I know you qualified for $400,000, but maybe that's a little bit too much. Trying not to bring too much of the mommy side of me in, especially on first-time home buyers, but it's hard because of my financial background. But it has been extremely helpful, and I think that my clients overall have really benefited from my experience.
Awesome. Awesome. Hey, can you try to turn your volume down just a touch if it's not too much? Try that.
Better?
Is that better for you?
Better.
Let's try that.
Okay.
So I need to give a little context here of how you and I even know each other. So 18 years ago, 19 years ago.
Yes. Are you that old?
Yeah, I'm old. Or at least it looks it. So you don't look a day older than the last time I saw you. I'm telling you, you look freaking amazing, and I'm a little bent about that. So yeah, 18-ish, 19-ish years ago, I actually had my buddy Kirk on. I don't know if you remember Kirk Chester or not. So Kirk was on with me a little while ago, and Kirk drags me down to Salt Lake City, and he's like, dude, I've got this opportunity. You need to check this out. And he takes me to a Primerica meeting. Primerica. And I was like, holy crap, this is really cool. I signed up, but the support structure down there really wasn't, they weren't in Idaho. It wasn't their market. They didn't have a way to really remotely support me. So Kirk reached out, and he found Vicki. And I was really nervous. I was like, okay, because I kind of understood the structure and how it all worked. And so I went out and saw Vicki, and I'll tell you, Vicki took me in, and she taught me the ropes. She helped me out a lot. She made me do a lot of stuff that I absolutely hated because it was needed to grow and be productive. And as they say, the rest is history. And Vicki, for one, I don't know if I ever thanked you for taking me on.
You thanked me many times.
Okay.
Thank you for being in my life.
Because holy crap, how long had you been in Primerica when I stepped in?
Oh man. It wasn't that long.
You weren't in very long.
6 months to a year.
Okay.
Probably right around that year mark, I'm thinking.
You advanced really quick. I mean, you are freaking phenomenal at anything you touch. So you jumped up the ranks really, really quick. And my favorite saying of yours that I still use to this day is an octopus on roller skates.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
we would go into a business meeting. We'd go into a team leadership meeting, and Vicki had shit everywhere. She had stacks of everything over here, and she had stacks of everything over here, and her big ass diet Pepsi right on her desk. And we'd be going along, and we'd be like, "Okay, Vicki, what do we do? You're the coach. We're la la la." She's like, "Right now, I'm an octopus on roller skates. There's a whole lot of action, no direction. So we need to get this stuff figured out. Let's go now. Get out of my office." And we're like, "Okay, what do we do now?" But one of the things that I still to this day brag about is when we went through that, what was it, the personality test. And when the thing that I loved about how we worked as a team was we would find something that worked really well, and we would figure out how to implement it across the board. And I feel that that was probably one of the most ingenious things that you did with us as a team was you identified, for everyone to understand, STAR, there's a gajillion of these personality traits. STAR was what we used. It was structure, technology, something, and relationship. I can't remember them all. And Vicki did this amazing thing where she recognized each one of us recruiters as that. And when we'd go into our recruiting blitzes, she would break it all down and say, "Okay, Dale, you get all the relationship people," or I think that's what I was. I don't remember what it was.
Yes, relationship.
And you get all these, and then we would match everybody up when we were doing. And holy crap, it worked.
Yeah.
It was amazing. So let me ask you, where was that spark of ingenuity that prompted you to do that?
Well, I think Primerica was really good at training, and they brought that down from my upline. And I read that and I went, oh my God, that makes so much sense because I know what drives me, and I don't think what drives me is the same thing that drives you or other people. And I've always felt that you have to put yourself in somebody else's shoes or try to understand that person because they're a different person, but they have all these good qualities and all these opportunities and all these things that they can do, but you just have to figure out what motivates them to do that. And it made so much sense to me at the time. And you are absolutely right. And I've used that through my whole career in everything, even working with buyers and sellers. You always try to go to the other side of the table and try to hear what they hear, see what they see from their perspective so that you can meet their needs. Absolutely. And people just open up to you and they respond to you and they flourish in whatever they're trying to do. And you certainly did that. So did all the other people. And I did that for me. And I always tell people right out of the gate, I'm an action personality. I'm very type A. I am that octopus on roller skates. I'm going 100 miles an hour all the time, and I love it. That's how I am successful. So if I am lucky enough to meet somebody in my life that understands that, it's always awesome because we just do great together.
Right. And I remember that we did so well on our recruiting for that, I don't know, 6-8 months or so, that I remember the bigwigs from down in California came up and they're like, "What the hell are you guys doing?"
We were kicking ass.
There's no doubt about it. I mean, granted, the market was perfect for us to do that. Micron had a big layoff during that time. Walmart had a big layoff. So it was a timing thing as well.
Yes.
But you recognize the timing, and we just put all the parts and pieces together, and we all dedicated our time to it. And we were a really good team. For a while there, we had a really good team, and you were so good at nurturing the team. You really were, and I really appreciate that.
I had a great team to nurture, but I always felt there's power in numbers, and working together and using everybody's strengths from all different personality types all brought something to the table that the other person couldn't do.
Mm-hmm.
And we had such a great team because everybody recognized that and everybody had a great attitude about it and everyone wanted to help each other. And that's why we did so well. That's why California came out and looked at what we were doing.
Right. Yeah. And, I mean, look at what Kevin's still doing even today. That dude is still rocking it out. And I've kind of lost track of a few of our other cohorts from that time, but I look at you and, you jump back into an industry that you are very good at, numbers and relationships and being able to put the two together. And even after we were all finished with Primerica, you went on and made your own investment company and you just were a rock star there for a while. And once again, I fell on bad times and you and Kevin brought me in and tried to help me, but timing or whatever, it just didn't work out. But the point is you still took me in again.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. And so everyone understands, full disclosure, I lived in Vicki's garage for like 2 weeks.
I forgot about that. Oh my God, that's pretty funny.
It was a perfect storm situation. We sold the house and we had a house that we were supposed to move into, all of us roommates and everything.
That's right.
That house didn't work out so well. So we were literally homeless for like 2 weeks. And I remember I walked into the office and no, I called you because we had something or something coming up. And I said, and you're like, okay, Dale, what's going on? Because you and I had a pretty tight relationship. I mean, we spent a lot of time together. And you're like, okay, what's going on, dummy? Something's not okay. And I told you, you're like, well, we just come crash with us. And that I truly appreciate. And that was a lifesaver because I was going to sleep in my car for a couple of weeks. So it was summertime. No. So I would have been okay.
Not ideal.
No, not ideal. But, and the other thing also, Vicki, is problem solving and taking on challenges. You as the boss of that insanely growing program, and when we made the move over from that strip mall over to the big office, and I just remember you pulling us all in and saying, okay, here's what we're doing. We're making this commitment and we're going to stick with it until it succeeds or it fails. And that was one of the first times I had experienced just true in business, true stick-to-itiveness is like, this is the course. This is where we're going. You better get on it or get off, period. There is no in between. And I remember spending insanely long days remodeling that office.
It was so awesome. It was so much fun.
It was
down walls and
well, and you were like, listen, this is what we're doing. We don't have the finances to do it right, so we're going to do it ourselves. And this is the process, and we're going to have ownership. And it wasn't. There was never a negativity to it. There was never a, hey, we can't do this. It's like, this is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to do it. And I mean, we did everything. We did everything.
Yeah, we did.
Whether we were supposed to do it or not, we did everything. And you know what? That whole thing, you want to talk about pride in and having ownership. I think, truly and honestly, Vicki, I think that's the first time I truly understood ownership in business. Not owning a business, ownership in the business.
Yep, absolutely.
Does that make sense?
Well, if any time, because I know that's what motivates me. If I feel like I'm part of a business, if I feel like I have some ownership in that business, I take pride in what I do, and I want to just do everything to make that business successful. And I think people in general want to do that. And I think that's the problem with a lot of businesses nowadays is their employees just feel like a number. The businesses, and there was a study that was done, and I can't remember who did it, and it was a book that was written too about who are the most important people in your organization. The people that are on the front line. You need to treat them right, treat them like they're ownership in the company. They're the ones that are bringing you all the customers. Those are the ones that you need to pay well, treat right, make them feel like they're a part of the business, that they're part owners in that business, and your company will flourish. That's why Costco has done so well, because that's what they do. Versus, well, Walmart has done okay too, but they have very different business models.
Absolutely. And is that a management versus leadership model?
Exactly.
I Uber a lot of all sorts of kind of people, and I'm a conversationalist, so I'm wanting to know about them. I'm wanting to learn about them in that short amount of time, and it's very intriguing to me to listen to people who truly enjoy what they're doing and they have ownership in their business versus those who are just punching a clock.
Yep.
And of course, I'm trying to delve in a little bit. I'm trying to pick a little bit to find out why. And majority of the time, it's, well, the manager doesn't give two craps about me, or they don't listen to me, or the scheduling's messed up, or I don't understand why they're doing X, Y, Z. And it comes down to leadership versus management.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's so many good ideas that people have out there. I think you've got to listen to their input, especially when they're the ones out in the ranks out doing all the work. They're seeing what needs to be done. They have value. Their opinions have value, and management needs to listen to them. It doesn't mean they have to do everything, but I think hearing what they have to say, truly hearing what they have to say, is so beneficial for the company, for them.
Right, absolutely. I mean, I remember sitting in your office, well, let me rephrase that, barging into your office or crashing your office, and you're like, God, I got to get work done. And I remember many times sitting down and be like, okay, I got this idea. This is what we're going to do. Blah, 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 blah. And you would listen, and then you would very politely say, no, not going to do that. Here are the reasons why. Now get out of my office. And yet, there would be other times when, like, Kevin and I would walk in, we're like, okay, we got this idea. This is what we want to do. Okay, run it. See where it goes. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, then cool. We'll go back to what we know. And, you were saying businesses, that's one of the reasons why Southwest has become as successful as it is as an airline, is that they literally give their employees the opportunity to make adjustments. And if it makes sense, then they will implement that company-wide and give credibility to that person. I remember one story that I don't remember all the details, but basically on the baggage line, they were having it would jam up in back behind the wall. It'd jam up, and it would cause damage to baggage and slow down everything. It was a big issue. Well, I don't remember what airport the guy was. He was just a guy that worked behind the wall. Nobody knew him. And he figured out what the issue was. It was the longer luggages, like the golf bags and the ski bags and things like that, were jamming up in this one particular place. He took a piece of sheet metal, extended the corner around a little bit, riveted it together, and it fixed all the problems. So now they didn't have any jam ups. The company implemented that company-wide, gave him the credit for it, and that saved them hundreds of thousands of dollars in the end.
Yeah.
That's what it's about.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, but let me ask you this, because you've been around big businesses, small businesses in more than I have. I've always been curious, and I've asked this question of a lot of people. At what point, at what growth point, at what saturation point, I don't know, at what point do companies go from we are a family, we are a company, to now here's the bureaucracy and the mitigation processes and the SOPs, and Where does that get lost?
Honestly, I think companies get greedy and they get away from their roots a lot of times, and they think they just forget who brought them there and how they got there. But I think the key issue is greed. And remember, I always used to say, I don't know if you remember me telling you this, but get the green out of your eyes when
Yeah.
you're talking to someone. Don't look at someone like their money.
Yep.
You need to look at them like they're a person. It's not about how much money you're going to make off of them or how much money they're going to make for you. It's about you helping them.
Yep.
And every time somebody got green in their eyes when they were looking at someone, their business started going south.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that all big businesses have done that by any means, but I think the companies that are truly successful are the ones that continue with their roots and continue in the family type setting. I mean, yes, there comes a point when you have to go corporate and you have to start making those decisions, but you can still keep the culture of your business family oriented, I think. And there have been some very successful businesses that have done that. So, yeah.
Well, I like using Winco as a great example.
Yes,
The
that's
grocery
another good
store
example.
right there in Idaho. I wish we had them out here. When we went back and visited, we went into Winco down in Twin Falls,
Right.
and I was like, "Oh, I miss Winco."
That's
people
the
out
first
here,
store I went to when I came back from North Dakota.
People out here, they're like, I don't get it. I don't get it. But it's an employee-owned company.
Yes. Yeah.
There aren't shareholders. There aren't, it's an employee-owned company, and so they make that. Costco is another great example. They're not employee-owned, but the management, the ownership, put their people first, and that's why they have probably one of the lowest turnover rates of any box store and warehouse program there is. Period.
Yeah. Yeah, and their employees are happy when you go in there. I mean, they really are. And Winco, I mean, you should see how much they're growing out here. It's crazy. There's Wincos going up everywhere.
That's awesome.
And I think it's awesome.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I had a friend back before I understood all of this. I had a friend that started working at Costco, and I was like, Costco, once you get a real job, right? Showing my ignorance, I didn't know any different. Shoot, it's been 18, 20 years now, and she's still working there, and she loves it as much today as she did when she first started. I'm like, that's a win. That is a win.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because the rest of us in life, we've changed shit like 15 times during that period of time. Or maybe that's just me. Okay. I think that's just me.
That's okay. That's okay. You're doing great.
I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to be when I grow up. I'm not sure what that is yet.
You may do that the rest of your life, but that's okay.
That's all right. You know what? And it's funny, Vicki. I'm just now, and I'm not there yet, but I'm just now becoming okay with that. Where I came from. Where the Idaho period, but then you go to rural Idaho, and it's even more so. Is that go to college, get an education, get a good job, stay in the job. But I was raised as a farmer. Farmers don't do that. I was raised as a rancher. Ranchers don't work that way. And that internal conflict has been an issue for me since. Is I can't stay at a job for more than 6 months, or I start breaking things. It doesn't work for me. And moving as a military wife is the same thing. You're not staying somewhere for a very long time. And I think I'm just now, no one ever accused me of being quick. I think I'm just now becoming okay with that.
There's nothing wrong with being you. I'm exactly the same way. I don't do the job either, but I was raised that you need to go to school and do this and do that. And I never could conform to that. And I, like you, kept thinking something was wrong with me. But you know what? There is nothing wrong with me. I am who I am. And once you start embracing who you are and your strengths, you'll be successful. But what does success mean anyway?
Yeah.
It's not what it means, what it means to you, not what it means to the world. And
Right.
it's a term that I think is used carelessly.
I agree. I agree. You know, because societal success, family success, community success, what does that mean? And, you know, I am married. We talked about this before. You know, I married up. There's no discussion. There's no argument. I married up.
He's a
And
lucky lady.
you know, and I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of my wife. I brag on her every single day. And being that I have a captive audience in my Uber, you know, daily, I get to brag on my wife all the time, and people get to know that she kicks ass. And that is also, I'm not. So part of the other issue is, and you and I think this was part of our conversation years and years back too, was that growing up in a traditional country setting, the man is the provider of the family, you know, and that's not a sexist thing. That's not a bigotry
No,
thing. That's
right,
just that's a cultural thing. Is
right.
that, you know, or even biblical if you want to go that deep, you know, is that it's our responsibility to provide for the family. Well, I'm not. I am not the breadwinner in our family. I don't provide that for our family. My wife does. And I'm not saying that it's bad, but it has challenged that belief system in me,
Right.
you know. And I know that
I
you
understand.
had the opposite side of that for many years, is that you were the breadwinner, you were the provider for the family for a very, very long time. And I remember having some conversations of the pushback that you got at that time
Oh
on
yeah.
the opposite side,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Not accepted. I think it's more accepted now than it was, but
Mhm.
yeah, it's just a cultural change.
It
The
is.
belief systems. Yeah,
It
absolutely.
is. You know, and I can only imagine at that time. I mean, granted, it was 20 years ago. That doesn't seem that long, but a lot can change.
A
Is
lot
that,
has
you know,
changed.
you were uber successful. You were financially successful. You had a great business that you built. You're amazing looking. You're a very beautiful woman. You're very outstanding, outgoing. You're very demanding, not in a bad way, but you know what you want. You're going to get it. And I could see, I remember sitting at kitchen tables. You know, for those of you guys don't know what Primerica was and is, it's still around. Is that you go to we were financial advisors, basically, for lack of a better term. And we would go to people's houses and we would talk to them about everything: their house, their finances, their budget, their investments, their kids' college, everything. And we'd sit at their table and talk about these very, very personal things. And I remember sitting at tables, especially when we went up to Salmon. That was a trip. Holy crap! Is that,
It's
you
fun.
know, I was 20, 21, so I'm talking to people my grandparents' age about what they should do with their money. And then here's Vicki, who's dressed to the nines, very professional, very beautiful, very aggressive in what she knows, but she's very good at talking to people. And I just remember people sitting at the table like, who are you and why are you even talking to me? And that alone was that was a pride issue for me, for one, because I was young and I have a stupid temper. I don't know if you remember any of those conversations.
No, not at all. Huh?
Not at all. None. Dale, stop. Shut your mouth. Why are you? No. You know, but it was such a um, interesting time, I guess, for me personally, in the growth that I had in such a short period of time. You know, do you remember? Do you remember? Sorry, real quick. I'm all about stories. Do you remember when we? Okay, so we were up in Salmon, and this is a conversation that I've been having with a lot of people, and I've been using this as an example. Is that I'm working through my money issues, this personal issue that I have with money, that a lot of us have with money. This, you know, money's bad and money's evil, and you know, it's not a good thing, right?
Right.
So the community that I grew up in is very looks down on money. It really does, if you have money, then you're not part of the community. And so that's how I grew up. So I'm just recognizing why I haven't been as financially successful as I should be, because I've got this issue, right? Well, I was actually talking to Juan. Juan was on here with us a second ago, and I was talking to him about this. And there's a specific time that you and I went up to Salmon, and we went to the Lewis and Clark Inn, right up from North Fork. I don't even remember. Yeah. So we went in to talk to the owners, and there was a dude sitting at the bar, and I'm in shirt and tie. You're in your pantsuit, because I don't think I've ever seen you in a dress. So you're in your pantsuit. And dresses are for girls. Exactly. So thank you. I'm a professional. So we're sitting there at the bar, and this dude that is not a local, he was a, he came in. He was a transplant. That's what I'm trying to say. He's sitting there, and he was eyeballing us. And I looked at him. I was like, "Can I help you? How you doing?" And I remember this like it's printed right here. He kind of sneers at me, and he's like, "Well, you know what? It's people like you we're trying to keep out of here."
Oh my God. I remember that now. Right.
It took everything in my being not to just bust his nose at that moment, because the thing that was going through my mind was, and this is a movie moment, do you know who I am? That's what went through my mind. I'm like, I'm a Maxwell. My family's been here for 3 generations. How dare you judge me? That's what went through my mind. If you remember, I stood up and I walked out the door.
Yeah.
I stood up and I walked out the door because I was pissed. I was gone. And it's so interesting how moments like that kind of solidify these crazy BS thoughts that we have about ourselves.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
But
you did real.
Yeah, and at that moment, I was just like, oh, but anyway. So how have you, now here's something I got to ask you is, you came from small town Idaho as well.
Mm-hmm. And not as small as you, but yes.
True. True. I mean, North Fork has a population of, I think they're up to 7 now.
7?
I think they're up to 7 now.
Nice. Okay.
They were 8, but the dog died.
Idaho is the fastest growing state in the nation. So.
Is it?
Yeah, it is.
Wow. That's exciting. It's sad at the same time.
I know.
How did you overcome that for you? We're talking entrepreneurs, we're talking business people, we're talking small town kids like myself, and we're also talking women. How did you break through that? How did you go from where you were to when I met you? You were top of the freaking game, and I'm sure in your business now you're on the way to the top of the game. How did you do that?
Honestly, I never thought about it really. I mean, I was very fortunate, and my mom always pushed me to be the best. I love your mom, by the way. I know. I love my mom too. But she always pushed me to be the best. And I tell you, if I didn't get an A+ in school, if I got an A or an A-, she said, you could do better. You could do better. And I never, I kind of resented her for that a little bit, but now as an adult, I look back and I'm glad she did that, because I never looked at myself as being a small person from a small town or a female in business. I mean, I obviously I knew I was a female in a man's world, but I just never, when I'm talking to people, I don't look at it that way. I only see myself being where I want to be, and I don't let what other people think of me. I mean, yes, it influences you to a certain degree, but it was like, didn't penetrate, I guess. I got a really thick skull. And I just never thought that I would be anything but who I was going to be, or that I was going to be number one with Primerica. It never dawned on me that I would never not make it to the top. Not once. I just, thought that's where I was going to be because I thought that's what I was supposed to do because I had to be my best. And I knew my best was being at the top. And that came from my mom. And I've gone through some hard times just like everyone else has, but I'm back to where I just don't see myself being anywhere but the absolute top. It doesn't dawn on me to be anything else. And I think you just have to envision yourself where you want to be. You have to figure out what that is. You have to figure out where you want to be, and that's what you focus on. You don't focus on the other stuff. And yes, it comes in, and yes, it gets you down, and yes, you feel blue, but it really just doesn't last very long because I get up and think, okay, well, I got to do my best or I'm going to get in trouble.
Right.
So, and honestly, that's just stuck with me my whole life. It's even to this day, and I'm sure it always will. So
I remember situations, and I don't remember the specifics, but I remember, I remember people, dogging on you, or, things happening or whatever. And I remember sitting in your office, you're just like, not in these specific words, but basically you're just like, they can kiss my ass, moving on. We didn't dwell on it. If there was a fire, we put it out, we moved on.
yeah, fix it and move on.
Exactly. And I truly appreciate that lesson. I really, truly appreciate that lesson because it's helped me a lot. Through everything that I've done, is don't dwell on it. Dwelling on it just magnifies it in our own minds, and then that complicates everything else.
Well, you're putting all your energy into dwelling on something negative instead of putting all your energy into making you get to your goal, whatever your goal is.
Right.
And everybody's goals are different, and it's okay to have different goals. Just don't waste your energy dwelling on something that doesn't need to take your energy. Like I said, I'm not saying I don't do that, but I always come back to that and go, okay, yeah, I'm taking a lot of my energy and a lot of my effort that is good stuff that I could be using. If I put all of that energy into accomplishing my goals, I'm going to be successful in my own mind to reach my own goals.
Right. And you make a very valid point. A good buddy of mine, Mark Stavanis, you would love Mark. Mark's good people. He does a fair amount of coaching, and his thing is unfortunately there's been a lot of coaching or a lot of suggestions that you ignore the negative. You leave it alone. And I kind of like his philosophy is you don't ignore it because it's real. Mm-hmm. It is real. It is here. Yeah. It's in our face. And if we sit on it too long, then it just blows up. He's like, his thing is give it 15 minutes. Give it its time. If something really bad just happened or something, give it its time. Yeah. Allow it, process it, go scream in the bathroom, give it 15 minutes, and then be done with it.
Absolutely.
Be done with it. Because I have had, and I'm working on this as well, I'm working on a lot of crap, is I can allow things to fester. I can allow things to sit because I was always taught you sit on it. You just shove it down. You just leave it be. And then it does turn into something and you can't get away from it. It's always there. Whereas if you just deal with it.
Right. Fix it.
It's
just
done.
Fix it.
Yeah. Absolutely. So
my husband
go ahead.
My husband always laughs because my son is that way, and he's always amazed when he's around my kids to see. He laughs because he says, "There's so much like you." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "Brian he always just wants to fix it. He doesn't dwell on it. He doesn't ignore the problem, but he's like, okay, what's the problem? Okay, so how are we going to fix it?" Yep. And I thought, well, if I've accomplished nothing else in my life, at least I accomplished that. He doesn't dwell on the negative. His life is all about fixing stuff, and he's done very, very well.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's a guy thing as well. I think a lot of it is we are problem solvers, and that's an issue between my wife and I because I'm like, okay, what's the problem? There is no problem. I want to vent. Well, you're venting about something that's a problem, so I want to fix the problem so we don't have to vent.
Right.
I'm a slow study, Vicki. I'm a slow study, and I'm getting better. But so I don't want to take up your whole morning, and I really appreciate this, and I could tell stories about us and you and everything that you've done for hours and hours and hours. But in your successes, you've had some down times and up times, as we all have. And the thing that I'm super, super proud of you, and I'm super just excited, is that you did pick yourself up. You didn't allow it to just beat you down. You stayed down. And I apologize for not keeping track of you better over the years, but life happens. What are some of your what are some of your pieces of advice for those of us that get our teeth kicked in on how to get back up? What did you do to get back up when, shit went sideways?
Well, honestly, I allowed myself to feel sad about it, and again, we don't dwell on stuff because you don't want to put your energy towards that. But I think you have to validate that you feel bad, that you're frustrated, that you're irritated, or whatever, that things didn't turn out the way you wanted to. But again, you can't dwell on that. And honestly, you want to get specific about how I get myself out of something. If I'm down and I'm feeling bad, I just sit down and I start making that list. And I just start writing stuff down, random stuff all over the board, just to get my mind geared back into going the right direction again. And then I start organizing my thoughts, and then I start categorizing them, and then if I don't know what else to do and I'm super frustrated that day, I just start with number one. Even if it's nothing important, I just do it. And then I go to number two, and then I go to number three. And then all of a sudden I'm starting to go back in the direction that I want to go. And I just repeat. And oftentimes I don't end up, especially when I'm in a life-changing event, I end up going in a completely different direction than I thought I was going to ultimately end up going. But guess what? I went that direction.
Right.
And eventually I found my way to what made sense, and I'm up and running again. But I think sometimes people just get the wind knocked out of their sails, and they're so busy floundering. And again, not that I haven't floundered. I certainly have done that, as we all have. And I think it's valid. But you just have to go back to kind of like what we talked about with businesses. You got to go back to what made you be successful in the first place. And that's what helps me, is just getting back and getting grounded again and starting fresh. And sometimes you got to get regrounded every single day until you're, going again. So I would say that's probably what.
That's awesome. And I love the list thing. And I totally forgot all of your lists. Oh my Lord. I've never met anyone that wrote as many notes and doodled than you. I totally just remember that as soon as you said that. I just remember notebooks upon notebooks of just doodles. And when I first met you, it irritated me. To be honest with you, it irritated me because we'd be sitting there having a conversation. We'd be talking, and I'd be talking. You'd be like, la, 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 la. This is my perception. La, 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 la. I'm doodling a sun over here. I'm like, hello, I'm right here. I'm talking. Why are you not paying attention to me? But I soon learned that that's your energy. That's, that's how you focus. Yeah. And because you are so quick, you are so insanely quick, and your mind is so much further beyond where we are at this moment that you have to bring yourself down.
Yeah.
And I soon realized that. I'm like, oh, okay. But when I first met you, I'm like, this chick's just being rude,
I had no idea. I'll have to remember that. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, it's only 20 years late, but
Well, okay. Yeah. If you think of anything else, be sure to let me know.
All right. Will do. I have nothing. That's all I got. No, but see, here's the thing though, is on that same thread, I have to do the same thing in conversation. I usually have my keys in my pocket or a couple coins in my pocket. And because for whatever reason, I can predict where a conversation's going. 9 times out of 10, if we're having just a cordial conversation, I kind of already know what you're going to say before you say it. I don't know why. It's one of my things. So back in the day, and I don't know if I was learning this when I was working with you, is that I would interrupt people. I'd say, yeah, I know where you're going with this, and this, and this, and this. Well, that's just rude. That's just, telling people what they're already going to say, just because I wanted to get the conversation moving to my speed. Well, what I finally had to do is I would put my hand in my pocket and I would play with something in my pocket to bring my mind's eye back down. And honestly, every once in a while, I'm only thinking about whatever it is I'm playing with in my pocket, because I already know what's going to be said. And that sounds pompous and arrogant, but it is, So then that way I'm slowing myself down. So then that way we're on the same pace.
Right.
And that makes sense. But for a while there, dude, people were just like, God, that guy's a prick, because I'd keep interrupting and I'd tell people, and it used to drive Brandon just freaking bonkers, because I'd tell her what she was going to say before she said it. And yeah, that didn't work out so well.
Okay, well, she got you straightened out. It's all good.
Yeah, well, big stick. Takes a big stick. So, all right, kiddo, I need to let you go. I really appreciate you. And I want to say thank you so very much for taking me in, for taking Brandon and me in, for taking all of us rejects when we first started there, Brian and Kevin and all of us, and shaping us and giving us skill sets that I don't, because here's the thing. I don't know if I would have went. There's no way in heck I would have ever thought of myself as a financial advisor, or whatever, because of where I came from, and you taking me in and giving me that confidence and making me do a bunch of stuff that I absolutely did not want to do, like opening up a phone book and making 200 calls a day.
Wasn't that awesome?
No.
It was great. It was awesome. I loved it.
Yeah, you loved watching us do it.
I did it too. I only had to do what I did.
But here's the thing, though. Here's the thing: is that I think I told you, like, I'm done after like a week. I'm like, Vicki,
I think you did.
No,
I think we had to change the course. Yeah,
I'm done. But what it did was it really showed me what I didn't want to do, the way I didn't want to do things. It gave me motivation to go out and start eyeballing people, doing things differently, because I was like, I'm done doing this. No, I'm not spending 6 hours a day making 200 phone calls a day. I'm not doing it. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying it wasn't successful, because it was. It built the funnel. But you made me do things that I wouldn't have chosen to do. And that gives me the opportunity today to tell people that, you know what? When people start bitching and moaning, I'm like, there's harder ways of doing this.
Yeah, that's right. You could have to keep you on the phone for 6 hours at a phone book.
Yeah.
Right.
There's harder ways of doing it. So if you want to do it the hard way, then let's go do that. If not, then change your attitude, kind of thing. So, but thank you, Vicki. I appreciate
Thank you, Dale.
I've
really enjoyed this.
Yes,
it's good to catch up with you.
Absolutely. So even though you told me no like 3 times before I finally got you on the hook to do this.
I told you I don't. Wow. Okay, I'm out of it. I don't know. I must have been thinking about something else.
Hey, Vicki, do you want to do this? No.
Well, you're being persistent. You're being persistent. Thank you. I've enjoyed it. This has been great.
Absolutely. And you and I are going to have to catch up a little bit more. I am not going to allow another 20 years to go before we talk about anything again.
Deal.
Awesome. All right, everyone. Thank you for hanging out with us. If nothing else, it was a great nostalgic moment for me. If it didn't appeal to anybody else, I really don't care. So here's the thing, guys. If you want to chat with me here on KickASSery, reach out to me. I'm trying to fill the next month and a half, 2 months. This is going to be awesome. As a reminder, this afternoon, I'm going to do the next segment in my handshake talk over on the body language page, which is something that Vicki also helped me through because I was learning a lot of that and implementing that into business and sales. That was the first opportunity I was really able to take my body language stuff and put it into practical sales and business. And Vicki and I had a lot of long conversations about that. And she actually gave me the first platform to professionally present to the team and talk about the body language and the posturing and listening and all that stuff. So that's another thank you, Vicki, is giving me that opportunity to build that confidence to say that I did know something and I do know something. So I truly appreciate that. So guys, hit Vicki up. If you're in the Idaho area, go crash your pad. You know, where's your office?
Why not?
Where's your office?
We have 2 offices. One's in Eagle and one's down off of Bogus Basin Road, just
Nice.
right as you turn off the hill.
Nice. Okay, so when we're finished here, put your details down in the comments, please.
Okay, I will.
Please do. All right, everybody, have an amazing day. Vicki, thank you, thank you, thank you. Love you tons. And guys, keep smiling because somebody needs it. Talk to you guys soon. Stick with me for just a minute.